The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. The Usual Suspects wasn't just a crime thriller. It was a masterclass in deception that began long before cameras rolled and continued to fool audiences decades later. Behind Bryan Singer's legendary twist ending lay a production shrouded in secrecy, where actors fought for screen time, federal agents raided sets, and one actor's bizarre accent nearly derailed the entire film. From a $6 million budget that spawned a cultural phenomenon to casting decisions that changed cinema history, we're diving deep into 20 weird facts about The Usual Suspects that will make you question everything you thought you knew about this neo-noir masterpiece. Plus, stick around for our bonus fact that reveals the most shocking secret the filmmakers never wanted you to discover. Let's round up The Usual Suspects and uncover the truth. The title came from a magazine column, not the plot. The Usual Suspects didn't begin with a criminal mastermind or a complex heist. The film was shot on a $6 million budget and began as a title taken from a column in Spy magazine called The Usual Suspects, after one of Claude Rains' most memorable lines in the classic film Casablanca. Director Bryan Singer stumbled across the phrase in the satirical magazine and thought it would make a compelling film title. Only after securing the title did screenwriter Christopher McQuarrie craft the intricate plot around it. The entire mythology of Keyser Söze, the legendary lineup scene, and the labyrinthine narrative all sprouted from 3 simple words in a magazine column. Sometimes the most complex stories begin with the simplest inspirations, proving that great cinema can emerge from the most unexpected sources. Every actor believed they were playing Keyser Söze. Imagine showing up to work every day, convinced you're the star of the movie, only to discover you've been brilliantly deceived. To maintain the air of mystery, Bryan Singer led all 5 main actors to believe they were playing the role of Keyser Söze while filming The Usual Suspects. Singer whispered different versions of the truth to Gabriel Byrne, Stephen Baldwin, Kevin Pollak, and Benicio del Toro, crafting personalized narratives that made each actor feel they were the centerpiece of the film's shocking revelation. Only Kevin Spacey knew from the outset that his character, Verbal Kint, was really Söze. This psychological manipulation created authentic performances filled with tension and uncertainty, as each actor played their role with the gravitas of someone harboring the film's greatest secret. The deception was so complete that some actors didn't learn the truth until they watched the finished film. Gabriel Byrne erupted in fury during the first screening. Picture this: you've spent months believing you're the villain of cinema's most twisted thriller, only to discover you've been completely played. Gabriel Byrne, flying into a rage when he screened the finished film, remains one of Hollywood's most explosive behind-the-scenes moments. Upon screening the film for the first time, Gabriel Byrne realized he'd been masterfully manipulated by Singer's elaborate deception. The Irish actor had poured his soul into Dean Keaton, convinced he was embodying one of cinema's greatest villains, only to watch Kevin Spacey claim that crown. His explosive reaction during the screening became legendary among cast and crew, with witnesses describing it as both justified and utterly devastating. Byrne's rage wasn't just professional disappointment. It was the fury of an artist who'd been emotionally manipulated for months, only to discover his dedication had been part of an elaborate illusion designed to serve someone else's performance. Federal agents shut down production during the climax. The climactic harbor sequence that defines The Usual Suspects faced an enemy more dangerous than any fictional crime lord: real federal agents with search warrants. According to The Guardian, the filming of the climax at the docks was shut down when police received an anonymous call that stated that the ship on which much of the action took place was harboring illicit substances. As a result, the shoot was shut down while the ATF raided the boat. Production ground to a halt as federal agents swarmed the vessel, convinced they'd uncovered a major smuggling operation. The cast and crew watched helplessly as their carefully constructed set became a crime scene, with props and equipment treated as potential evidence. Hours of interrogation followed before agents realized they'd raided a movie set, not a criminal enterprise. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. A film about elaborate deceptions had itself become the victim of mistaken identity, proving that sometimes reality proves stranger than the most twisted Hollywood fiction. Benicio del Toro's accent was pure genius, disguised as madness. Benicio del Toro's incomprehensible mumbling as Fred Fenster almost got him fired, but it was actually calculated brilliance. Benicio del Toro. I read the script and I realized that the purpose of the character was that he was the first one to die. So then, every line that he said didn't really affect the plot. So I sat down with director Bryan Singer and I said, it really doesn't matter what this guy says. And if you allow me to, I think I can create something memorable. Del Toro recognized that Fenster's dialogue was essentially expendable. His character existed to be eliminated early, clearing narrative space for the real story. Rather than deliver throwaway lines conventionally, Del Toro crafted an otherworldly accent that made every word sound like it came from another dimension. Benicio came up with that himself to make an impact, as he was the first to die. The result transformed a disposable character into an unforgettable presence, proving that sometimes the most brilliant creative decisions look like madness until they're revealed as genius. The interrogation room became a two-person theater. Strip away the flashbacks, the multiple timelines, and the elaborate heist sequences, and The Usual Suspects reveals itself as something unexpected, an intimate chamber piece. Singer and the cast spent 5 days filming that sequence. Without all the flashbacks interspersed, it felt like a two-person play between Spacey and Palminteri. For nearly a week, the entire production focused on capturing the psychological battle between Verbal Kint and Agent Kujan, transforming a police interrogation into a masterclass in cinematic tension. Kevin Spacey and Chaz Palminteri faced each other across that table for hours each day, building layers of deception and revelation that would become the film's emotional core. The confined space forced both actors to rely purely on dialogue and micro-expressions, creating performances that burned with intensity. These 5 days of filming produced the scenes that audiences remember most, proving that sometimes the most explosive action happens when nobody moves at all. Christopher McQuarrie's script started with a movie poster. The entire labyrinthine plot of The Usual Suspects began with a single image burned into screenwriter Christopher McQuarrie's imagination. Screenwriter Christopher McQuarrie conceived the idea for the film by envisioning a movie poster with 5 men in a lineup. That iconic image, 5 shadowy figures standing against a police station wall, became the foundation for everything that followed. McQuarrie worked backwards from that poster, asking himself what crime could bring these 5 disparate criminals together, what force could manipulate them, and what revelation could recontextualize everything audiences thought they knew. The lineup scene, now considered one of cinema's most memorable moments, wasn't written to serve the plot. The plot was written to serve that single, powerful image. McQuarrie's reverse engineering approach created a story that feels both inevitable and impossible to predict, proving that sometimes the most complex narratives begin with the simplest visual concepts. The film's composer also served as editor. Hollywood loves hyphenates, writer-directors, actor-producers, director-cinematographers, but The Usual Suspects featured one of the industry's rarest combinations. Writer/directors are common. Even directors/cinematographers aren't unusual. But a composer/editor? John Ottman filled both roles, shaping the film's rhythm in the editing room before crafting the musical score that would enhance those same rhythms. This dual responsibility created unprecedented synergy between sound and story, allowing Ottman to edit scenes with their eventual musical accompaniment already in mind. He could extend a pause knowing exactly which musical phrase would fill it, or cut a sequence to match the tempo of a score that existed only in his imagination. The result feels seamless, because it was literally crafted by the same artistic vision, proving that sometimes breaking Hollywood conventions creates the most powerful art. Kevin Spacey kept the secret, even from his closest friends. Method acting took on new meaning during The Usual Suspects, as Kevin Spacey maintained his character's deception even when cameras weren't rolling. Kevin Spacey was quite candid about the confusion on the set. Talking to the Evening Standard, Spacey said that Bryan Singer let each cast member think that they were Kaiser Söze. But Spacey knew the truth from day one and never broke character, even in private conversations with cast members. He watched his fellow actors agonize over their performances, convinced they were carrying the film's central secret, while he maintained the fiction that he, too, was in the dark. As a result, most of the cast was in the dark as to who was the true Söze and how the movie would end. Spacey's commitment to the deception was so complete that he essentially lived as verbal Kint for months, proving that the greatest performances sometimes require actors to deceive not just audiences, but everyone around them. The budget limitations created accidental genius. Before we dive deeper into these revelations, go ahead and like and subscribe, because these behind-the-scenes secrets get even wilder, and you won't want to miss what happened when the film's tiny budget forced creative solutions that accidentally created cinema history. The Usual Suspects operated on a shoestring budget that would embarrass most indie productions, but those financial constraints birthed creative solutions that became the film's signature elements. The film was shot on a $6 million budget, forcing Singer and his team to rely on practical ingenuity rather than expensive effects. The famous lineup scene was filmed in a single day with minimal equipment, using natural lighting and handheld cameras that created a documentary-like authenticity. The interrogation room scenes maximized dramatic impact while minimizing production costs. 2 actors, 1 room, endless possibilities. Even the film's intricate flashback structure emerged partly from budget necessities, allowing the production to reuse locations and actors in multiple contexts. These financial limitations forced the filmmakers to focus on story and performance rather than spectacle, creating a lean, mean thriller that proved sometimes the best special effect is a brilliant script executed with passionate craftsmanship. The Kaiser Söze mythology drew from real-life killers. The character of Kaiser Söze wasn't born from pure imagination. Screenwriter Christopher McQuarrie drew inspiration from one of history's most chilling real-life cases. The character was inspired by real-life murderer John List, whose calculated brutality and methodical approach to violence provided the psychological foundation for cinema's most feared crime lord. McQuarrie studied List's case files, fascinated by how an ordinary-seeming man could commit extraordinary acts of violence while maintaining the facade of respectability. The legendary story of Söze killing his own family to prove his ruthlessness mirrors the cold calculation of real killers who view human life as expendable in service of larger goals. This grounding in authentic criminal psychology gave Söze a terrifying plausibility that purely fictional villains often lack, proving that the most effective movie monsters are those that could conceivably exist in the real world. The Turkish connection was a cultural deep cut. Kaiser Söze's Turkish origins weren't chosen randomly. They represented Christopher McQuarrie's fascination with criminal organizations that operated beyond American law enforcement's reach. Who is Kaiser Söze? He is supposed to be Turkish. Some say his father was German. Nobody believed he was real. The Turkish connection reflected the screenwriter's research into international crime syndicates that maintained mythical status precisely because they operated in cultural and legal gray areas. Turkish organized crime groups were notorious for their secrecy and brutality, making them perfect inspiration for a character who existed at the intersection of myth and reality. The ambiguity surrounding Söze's exact origins, Turkish father, German grandfather, multiple nationalities, mirrors the way real international criminals create deliberate confusion about their backgrounds to avoid capture. This attention to authentic criminal methodology elevated Söze beyond a typical movie villain into something that felt genuinely threatening. Stephen Baldwin nearly quit over screen time. Behind the scenes, the usual suspects faced a different kind of heist. Stephen Baldwin's attempt to steal more screen time through increasingly desperate negotiations. Baldwin, playing Michael McManus, quickly realized his character occupied the film's periphery rather than its center, and launched a campaign to expand his role. He pitched additional scenes, suggested character backstories, and even proposed alternate versions of key sequences that would showcase McManus more prominently. Director Bryan Singer faced daily negotiations with Baldwin, who threatened to walk away from the production if his part wasn't substantially increased. The tension reached its peak during the harbor sequence, where Baldwin lobbied for McManus to survive longer and deliver more dialogue. Singer's refusal to compromise the story's integrity created lasting friction, but ultimately preserved the film's carefully balanced ensemble structure. Baldwin's experience illustrated the challenge of managing actors' egos while maintaining artistic vision. The coffee cup clues were added in post-production. The famous coffee cup that reveals Verbal's deception wasn't part of the original script. It emerged during post-production as editor John Ottman searched for ways to enhance the film's climactic revelation. The prop department had filled Agent Kujan's desk with authentic police station details, including coffee cups from various Los Angeles establishments. During editing, Ottman noticed the Kobayashi porcelain manufacturer's mark on the bottom of one cup and realized its potential as a visual clue. He convinced Singer to shoot additional close-ups during pickup sessions, creating the now iconic moment when Kujan discovers how thoroughly he's been manipulated. The coffee cup became the perfect metaphor for the film's central theme, truth hiding in plain sight, visible only when viewed from the correct angle. This last-minute addition transformed a simple prop into one of cinema's most satisfying aha moments. Chaz Palminteri improvised his most memorable lines. Agent David Kujan's most quotable moments weren't scripted. They emerged from Chaz Palminteri's deep understanding of police interrogation psychology. Palminteri spent weeks studying real LAPD interrogation techniques, learning how experienced detectives manipulate suspects through verbal pressure and psychological manipulation. During filming, Singer encouraged Palminteri to improvise dialogue that felt authentically cop-like, leading to some of the film's most memorable exchanges. The actor's background studying method acting techniques at the actor's studio gave him tools to create realistic law enforcement dialogue that felt lived in rather than written. Palminteri's improvisations were so convincing that many viewers assume he drew from personal law enforcement experience, when in fact, his authenticity came from intensive preparation and natural instinct for character psychology. The lineup scene required multiple hidden cameras. The legendary police lineup scene that introduces our 5 protagonists required unprecedented technical coordination to capture the actors' natural interactions. Singer positioned multiple hidden cameras throughout the set, allowing him to film the scene from various angles simultaneously without the actors knowing exactly when they were being recorded. This approach captured genuinely spontaneous moments between the performers, including Benicio del Toro's incomprehensible muttering and Kevin Pollak's sarcastic commentary. The multiple camera setup also allowed Singer to experiment with different staging approaches, filming the same scene multiple times with varying blocking and improvisation. The final version combines the best moments from dozens of takes, creating a sequence that feels both choreographed and completely natural. This technical innovation became a template for filming ensemble scenes in subsequent crime films. Pete Postlethwaite never learned his character's true identity. Mr. Kobayashi, the mysterious lawyer who serves as Kaiser Söze's representative, was portrayed by Pete Postlethwaite without the British actor ever learning his character's complete function in the story. Singer deliberately kept Postlethwaite ignorant of Kobayashi's true relationship to the central mystery, instead providing only the specific scenes and dialogue needed for each day's filming. This approach allowed Postlethwaite to play Kobayashi with genuine mystery, rather than calculated deception, creating a performance that feels authentically enigmatic. The actor's confusion about his character's motivations translated into an otherworldly screen presence that perfectly served the story's themes of incomplete information and deliberate misdirection. Postlethwaite later admitted that watching the finished film was like solving a puzzle he'd unknowingly been part of constructing. The film's success saved several careers. The Usual Suspects arrived at a crucial moment for multiple careers that were teetering on the edge of obscurity, transforming near misses into lasting success stories. Bryan Singer was a film school graduate with no major credits, facing the prospect of returning to television work if the film failed. Kevin Spacey was a respected theater actor, struggling to transition to leading man status in Hollywood, with several previous films performing poorly at the box office. Christopher McQuarrie was an unknown screenwriter whose previous projects had been trapped in development hell for years. The film's critical and commercial success launched all three into the Hollywood elite, with Singer directing the X-Men franchise, Spacey becoming a major movie star, and McQuarrie writing and directing major action films. Sometimes a single project can redirect multiple destinies, proving that the right collaboration at the right moment can change everything. The twist ending was filmed with 3 different reveals. Bryan Singer, obsessed with maintaining his film's central secret, filmed multiple versions of the climactic revelation to prevent leaks during post-production. The production shot Kaiser Söze's identity reveal 3 different ways, with Kevin Spacey as the twist, with Gabriel Byrne as the true villain, and with a version suggesting that Söze was entirely fictional. Each version required different dialogue, blocking, and even costume details, demanding additional time and budget that the production could barely afford. The cast filmed contradictory scenes without knowing which version would appear in the final cut, maintaining uncertainty until the very end of post-production. Singer's paranoia proved justified. Not a single significant plot detail leaked during the film's production or editing process, preserving the twist for theatrical audiences. This unprecedented secrecy became a model for subsequent films with major revelations. The film's international success created translation nightmares. The Usual Suspects' intricate wordplay and cultural references created unprecedented challenges for international distributors attempting to subtitle and dub the film for global audiences. Verbal Kint's rapid-fire dialogue, filled with American criminal slang and pop culture references, proved nearly impossible to translate while maintaining the story's essential ambiguities. The Kobayashi clues that work perfectly in English became meaningless in languages where the Japanese name carried no cultural significance. Benicio del Toro's intentionally incomprehensible accent created additional problems for subtitle writers who had to decide whether to translate his mumbled words or simply note them as unintelligible. Some international versions inadvertently revealed plot twists early because translators, working from complete scripts, included clarifying information that ruined the film's careful misdirection. The translation challenges illustrated how the film's success depended on specifically American cultural and linguistic context that couldn't be easily exported. Here's the secret that even hardcore fans miss. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. The line that became synonymous with The Usual Suspects, quoted in countless articles and social media posts, is never actually spoken by Kevin Spacey's verbal Kint in the film. The quote originates from a 19th-century French poet, Charles Baudelaire, and was adapted by screenwriter Christopher McQuarrie for the film's marketing campaign and press materials, but it was cut from the final script during editing. Somehow, this deleted line became the film's most famous quote, appearing on movie posters, in reviews, and in popular culture references for decades. The confusion became so widespread that even some cast members believed they had delivered the line during filming. It's the perfect metaphor for the film itself, a truth that exists only in the imagination, more powerful for being absent than present. The Usual Suspects transformed a $6 million gamble into a cultural phenomenon that redefined what audiences expected from twist endings. Behind Singer's masterpiece lay a production as full of deceptions, revelations, and hidden truths as the story it told. From federal raids to furious actors, from improvised dialogue to deleted quotes that became legendary, the film's creation proved as twisted and unpredictable as Kaiser Söze himself. What other movie secrets are hiding in plain sight? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button for more behind-the-scenes revelations, and remember, the greatest tricks are the ones you never see coming.